I would like to introduce you to my daughter. Her name is Simone. We have never sung on the stage together.
Well, it's amazing when you just talk about yourself. I went into the military right after high school, much to my mother's dismay. She was shocked. She couldn't believe it. She thought I was out of my mind. And when I think about the fact that she spent so many years speaking out against the man, speaking up for our people, the fact that her only child would decide to go into the military and actually take an oath to possibly die for the man didn't rest very well with her. My college plans that I had worked so hard to put in place fell apart when the adults got involved, so the Air Force somehow became an option, which I still can't remember how that was, but I must have been very desperate because I took it. Went from wanting to be a lawyer, majoring in English and becoming a lawyer, to going into the United States Air Force and becoming a civil engineering assistant. And I want to make that very clear because many write-ups have been very vague on that. And what that was someone who could go into a blank piece of land and bring in any type of surveying and do whatever's necessary to build a structure and basically hand the owner the keys. And it was very involved. I feel like I was sleepwalking for about 8 years because I hated it. To think that I wanted to be a lawyer and I wound up being in construction was just not part of my plan. So it was while I was, I was stationed at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona, where my first child was born. And then I was stationed in Osan Air Base, Korea for 1 year. And from there I went to Rhein-Main Air Base, which is no longer in Frankfurt, Germany. And there I was reunited with my love for singing. When I was a child, I went to school with Malcolm X's daughters. They're my god sisters, all 6 of them. I'm the 7th sister. And they always asked me to sing Mommy's Turning Point, which is like a child's lullaby. I'll never forget that. I think at least every other day they asked me to sing that song. And I started singing actually for real, in church. I was in a group called the Gospel Cameras. It's interesting that I've migrated after all these years from something that was so much a part of my life, meaning singing and music. It's almost as if I ran away, if you will, in search of myself, only to come right back to who I really am, which is an entertainer, a songwriter, and a singer. So it feels good to be doing something that comes from my soul, which I try to encourage many people to do. When I think of Broadway, that was my basic training for the stage. I went to basic training for the military and basic training to be an entertainer. And the first show I ever did was Jesus Christ Superstar. I was a Mary understudy and a soul sister and the vocal coach and a chorus member. And I did it with Ted Neely and the late Carl Anderson. And it was a wonderful experience. And a young man that I met in that cast actually is the way that I got to Broadway. He called me and asked me if I wanted to audition for Rent when Jonathan Larson was still alive, which I couldn't do. And so I ended up doing Rent. From there I was introduced to Disney, where I did the Lion King workshop, the Aida workshop, and then I wound up having the privilege of starring as Aida, not only on Broadway, but on the first national tour. I actually potty trained my daughter on the first national tour of Aida as well. So I have a picture of her on my back in diapers, my 2 hardest jobs converging at an intermission in San Francisco. But it was while I was doing Aida that my mom passed away. The last time I saw her, she came to see me perform on Broadway in Aida, and she actually yelled from the audience during a scene that particularly touched her. She shattered the fourth wall for a minute. I tell that story during shows. But that's the last time I saw her. And when she passed away, my life changed. It was as if I was shot out of a cannon, and I went from being the princess to becoming the queen. Being a performer was never anything I ever considered when I was a child, ever. I'm thinking, nope. As I grew older and excelled in school, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an interpreter. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to make lots of money. And every time I thought of what I wanted to do, the stage never had anything to do with it. So it was very interesting when that came back into my life, how readily I embraced it, because I realized that I wasn't happy. And I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life doing something that made me unhappy. So when I think of my mom wanted to be a classical musician. And that didn't work out, so she ended up singing civil rights songs, and as we know, blues and gospel and legit and every kind of music imaginable. Mommy did it, but she didn't do what she set out to do. And the same thing for me. You know, I'm not doing what I set out to do, but yet I'm doing something that I was meant to do. And Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and Rufus and oh my goodness, just all of those funk and R&B bands. Aretha Franklin, actually Diodato, and what is it? Simon and Garfunkel Sisters. That's the kind of music I always imagine myself doing, and I always hear harmonies in my head. I always hear lots of voices. So when Simone on Simone came into being, and I was approached with the idea of doing a big band jazz project that wasn't really in keeping with what I had in mind. But when I took the time to really give it some consideration, and I took out the charts that my mother had given me, over 50 of them, I noticed that many of them were for 18 to 21 pieces. And then when I went back through the albums and looked through a lot of my favorite Nina Simone songs, a lot of those songs came off the High Priestess of Soul album, I realized, wow, I like that song. I like that song. Ooh, Keeper of the Flame, I could do that. So the album came together in about 45 minutes. And I went into the studio over a 3-day period with an 18-piece big band out of Pennsylvania in a recording studio by the name of Star City. And we did it in 3 days. Conflicting feelings that she had a lot for me when I was performing. But I wasn't scared. I ain't scared. You did it. I could do it. You took on the establishment. I ain't even trying to do that.
And now I'm going to play for her to sing a song to you. What's the name of it, honey? I forgot.
Music for Lovers.
Music for Lovers.
There'll be music for lovers to be found in the sound of a sigh. And there's music for lovers in the hushabye dreams of a child. When the whole world,
that's my baby.